Okie dokie. Good morning, everybody. If you're in Australia, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Yes, sorry about yesterday's Q&A. I had to, actually it didn't work out, but I've had to change my trimmer around who comes and does my horses. She was going to come out yesterday. She actually ended up not being able to come out because of the weather, but I had to reschedule our Q&A. And what I might do is keep it to Mondays, Australian Eastern Daylight Time, or soon to be Standard Time, when we lose our daylight saving. But yeah, anyway, I hope this time works for you. There's always a replay anyway. So yeah, I just wanted to update you on a change of time. And I'm just making sure I've got my settings, and I can see a little, hope that little wavy thing over in the right corner. Don't worry, I've got the sun coming through my blinds here behind me. And everything, making sure, because Facebook always change things on me. Okay, so this is our weekly Q&A for anyone that is new in the group and hasn't been to any of our Q&As, and also a big welcome to all our new members. Lovely to have you in the group. I'll pop up a welcome post for you, and I'll give you a bit of an idea of what the group, where you can sort of move around in the group. There's a guide section. As I mentioned, we have our weekly Q&A, and the group is for you. You can pop up and ask a question anytime. You can share in the group, share your successes, your struggles, photos of your off the track thoroughbred. Yeah, look, the only thing, as I say, is no selling or promoting businesses or things like that, but it's a very educational and supportive group, and it's here for you guys. And I'm in the group every day, so if you have a question, pop it up as a post, and I will I'll get in the group and answer it as soon as possible for you. I'm just going to get up. I might actually go and close that blind because I can see a little wavy thing in the background, so just give me one moment. The sun's coming right through here. Beautiful to see the sun. Okay. Is that a little bit better? I think that's a little bit better. So nice to see the sun. We've had very rainy weather here. I'm down in Canberra, down in Australia, and it's been horrible. Don't know where our summer went, but we didn't really have one. Anyway, so if you have a question, if you want to have a question, pop it in the comments and I will answer it for you. I do have a topic that I will be speaking about today. I had a question from my YouTube channel, actually, so I will answer that in this in today's Q&A. I'm just going to get a water and a sip of coffee. Hopefully my dogs will be quiet. They've been going off this morning. They've been barking. They've been very naughty. Usually I have dogs barking in the Q&A. So today's, actually, I'm not sure if I can find, I'll find this question because I like to read out exactly what the question is. So I love coffee. Love coffee. So I had to just go and make another one before I came on live, guys. I'm going to find this question. It's on my YouTube channel. And I'll go in it and I'll read it out. Oh, wrong channel. Okie dokie, where am I here? There we go. Okay, so where's my question? Don't know if I can find it on the, I should be able to find, what's it doing? Sorry guys, just a tech thing happening here. That's it, I've got that. Now, I wonder how I find the questions on the on my phone. I can find it on my app. It's about TOPLINE. I'm talking about TOPLINE, guys, so don't go anywhere while I'm trying to find it. Very good topic, especially with Off The Track Thoroughbreds. So I'll go to videos. I wonder, you know, things are always different on mobile, aren't they, than they are on your laptop. I think it's this one. Okay.
This revolutionary new device can remove up to...
Okie dokie. Here we go. I think I found it. Okay, this is from Sarah Knight. Lovely information. Thank you for your video. So that's nice. I'm glad that the video is helping. She says, I do have a question about TOPLINE. So I recently obtained an OTTB and he raced until he was 7. He is currently 10, nearly 11. He has a really bony TOPLINE, super high withers too, but I'm wondering if there is anything else I can do for him. He's on performance feed and a muscle mass supplement. We do carrot stretches and a lot of work backing up to strengthen his back. Is there anything else I could that could help? And I did answer. So... and I just wanted to get a little bit more details. I might read you out my answer. So there are other ways to improve your boy's TOPLINE. It sounds like you're covering the diet. So first of all, with TOPLINE, it's really good to make sure that your horse is getting a good quality protein supplement. Protein builds muscle. Okay, so if you're wanting to build TOPLINE, a good source of protein will definitely help. It's not really going to help without other work, but to make sure that the protein levels in your horse's diet are really good. And a good source of complete I don't know a lot about it, you know, when it comes to the particular proteins, but I know that a good source of protein that has lysine in it is beneficial for building TOPLINE. So here we've got a soybean meal is very good. Now the only thing is with soybean meal, and quite often soybean meal is in the protein, you know, you get a muscle mass supplement for horses. It's in the supplements, and you need to also make sure though with soybean meal that it is very well cooked. So a very good brand like your feed companies, you want to make sure that it is from a good brand and that it's either heat extracted, because there is there's a compound in soybean meal that actually stops protein from being absorbed in the body, and it makes TOPLINE and muscle development even worse. So yeah, I follow Feed Excel. I think I need another sip of coffee, guys. I follow Feed Excel Nerida Richards. So she's an Australian equine nutritionist. Worldwide, Feed Excel is in my online course. I have a link to it. And also, if you want to find out more, let me know and I'll pop up a post in the group. But it's an excellent resource for everything equine nutrition. She's done some really good articles on comparing. I'll have to go through and find out the actual compound that's in soybean meal, but it is degraded. It's not there when the soybean meal is heat treated correctly. But if it's not, it's in there and you can test for it and it will stop muscle development. It's actually very bad for your horse. So really important if you feed soybean meal to make sure that it's from a reputable feed company. Ring them up, ask them, is it heat treated and have they tested for this compound? I have to find out. It's in an article on Feed Excel, but I went through a bit of an issue with my horses and I then changed the soybean meal that I was feeding because of concerns that the one I was feeding. Nerida does a very good article on clients, Australian, I think it was a riding school actually, where all their horses started looking really poor in their TOPLINE, and they found out that they were feeding a soybean meal that was raw, it wasn't cooked. And they tested it. So I think, actually, I'm not even going to say, I'm not sure if it was raw, but it definitely wasn't cooked adequately to get rid of this compound in it. So when feeding protein, and if you're going to feed soybean meal, make sure that you get a very reputable company and that it's heat treated. So going back to my answer here, so other than the protein, also too, another one that is supposedly helps top line is rice bran. The only thing is, rice bran is a grain, and I prefer to avoid feeding grains to all my horses. Off the track thoroughbreds, I much prefer to have them on a grain-free diet. But what you can do, I wouldn't do it long term. You can feed them rice bran oil. I know there's issues and there's some conflicting things with the high omega-6 and that, so don't I'm only offering this from it being fed in racing stables. I do feed it to my horses that have poor top line. I combine flaxseed oil, some rice bran oil, and some canola oil. But once they have a very good top line developed, and it's only for horses that have really struggled with their top line, I then remove the oils, because you really don't want to be feeding omega-6. I think rice bran oil has omega-9 in it as well. But yeah, rice bran and rice bran oil are quite often are also in muscle mass supplements, and helping to build top line. So that's sort of the diet aspect of it. The two things, soybean meal, a good protein source. I know that Nerida Richards and other equine nutritionists have talked about supplementing with whey protein. I don't go down that line. I don't know about giving horses dairy. I think I just would stick to the soybean meal and the rice bran oil. That's what I do to help top line. So that's what I can recommend from my point of view. Now when it comes to, I'll just read my answer to give you an idea of how I've responded. So covering the diet, a good source of protein helps build top line. So the carrot stretches and backing up can help, but won't have a significant impact without incorporating a good exercise routine where he is using his body correctly with a healthy posture. So before you can do this, it's important to make sure pain or injury is not influencing his top line, including bad hoof angles. I asked whether she's had him checked over by a vet and a body worker. So once you've eliminated any pain-related issues, adding an exercise routine where he's using his body correctly in a free and healthy posture will make the biggest difference. So this will take time, and also depends on where she's at with him in his training, in his retraining, when it comes to actually his basic responses and things like that. Because if he's not trained in his basic responses, he's not going to use his body correctly anyway. So I've asked whether he's been retrained, and does he need to go through a retraining program. So he has been, I did get a response. He has, from Sarah, he has been retrained for the last 3 years. He's been very recently checked over by 2 vets that gave him the all clear. She has a chiropractor coming out to adjust him, and he gets his feet done every 4 weeks as he is barefoot. So that's all perfect. Barefoot is actually really good if you've got a correct barefoot trimmer, and they're going for the right angles. I'm not sure how much, if any, time. So whether he's had time off before she purchased him 10 months ago, but he had a very poor top line when Sarah got him. So the vets told Sarah to continue riding him to build him up, as it's the best way, and she started walking him over some poles and that. To build up his core and back muscles. Okay, so I wanted to have a chat about top line because it's there's a lot of information out there, and it's really it's hard to build top line, particularly. So we're coming from an off the track thoroughbred aspect as well. So when you get an off the track thoroughbred, as I've mentioned in many lives beforehand and articles and that, they use their body completely differently and racing. They muscle up. They get very big in their shoulders, and they'll get very locked. They're very locked in their body. It's very demanding racing for them, It's highly strenuous, and they're working at maximum speed. A lot of wear and tear on their body, a lot of work put on their joints and their tendons and ligaments, and quite often your off the track thoroughbred may have had racing industry in injuries that they've needed to recover from or recovering from. So just having the awareness that they've had a lot of high demands put on their body, not only with the physical expectations of racing, but also their diet, a very high concentrate, high grain diet, ulcers more than often, and hindgut acidosis. So I always go back to looking at a holistic rehabilitation when approaching retraining your off the track thoroughbred, even when it comes to building top line. So we're looking at one aspect. So as I mentioned with answering Sarah, covering making sure that you have good hoof angles, and treating for ulcers, getting on a grain-free diet, making sure they're comfortable in their gut. If they're uncomfortable in their gut, they've got pain from gastric ulcers, well, that's going to affect how they move, how they work their body, and also hindgut acidosis. I really want to talk about hindgut acidosis because it doesn't really get mentioned much. So I think in my next live, I'm going to chat about that one. So we want to eliminate any issues of pain that's going to affect how our horse moves when they come into the re-education. And there's one other, so I've got hoof, hindgut ulcers. Yeah, so having a vet check as well is really important. So you want to make sure that, even old scar tissue, one of my horses off the track thoroughbred, I really struggled with getting him to work over the back. This was years ago. I've still got him, but years ago, Dragon. And he just was bracing and wouldn't want to work. And I did approach my retraining different back then. He was a bit of a learning curve for me. And I found out that he had all this scar tissue in his shoulders from an injury from racing. So if you've got scar tissue there, it's not flexible and it's not going to give like your normal healthy muscles going to give. So just being aware, body workers, equine chiropractors, equine osteopaths, and feeling your horse yourself. Like I love to massage my horses and I love to feel their body, and it's really nice throughout their retraining to get a racehorse that's so, I've worked in racing for so long and ridden track work for so long, they quite often are so rock solid in their muscles, and a lot of the times they're not working properly depending on what stable they're in and how they're ridden, but they'll get very locked in their shoulders. They can quite often get this big under muscle because they're not working over the back. So we need to be aware that we're sort of chipping away at, depending on where your horse is. So I'm not sure with Sarah, he sounds like he's very atrophied in his top line. I'm also going to compare this to Ty, who's an off the track thoroughbred that I have here. So he came to me, I think he's been with me 8 months now, quite a long while. He had no top line. He was dipped. He was really bad, worse than what you even see in any photos that I've shared. He just doesn't show how bad it was in the photos. And to get him to have a top line now has been a massive. I was only looking at him the other day and I'm like, wow. And he sort of changes a little bit too, depending if we've had a few issues, a few setbacks through it all and hitting a few brick walls. But I was just looking at him the other day and working him the other day and just thinking, wow, what an achievement to have a horse that was so atrophied in his top line, to actually start to have this lovely top line. He was like a boat, it was really bad. He'd only been out of racing for 12 months. So I then did go through his history, and I've mentioned this in my lives, and he had he had a long racing history. And he also, you could see he had compensated a lot through his racing. So this is what a lot of thoroughbred racehorses do. They will compensate in how they use and hold their body for pain, for injuries they're carrying that aren't detected. They may be going around and looking so-called okay, but I've ridden enough racehorses to know that there's subtle signs that there's something wrong. So they'll compensate. Horses hide pain. Horses don't like to show they're injured. It's a natural protective mechanism for them. As an injured horse in the wild is going to be vulnerable to predators. So they sort of, they're very stoic horses. I mean, people say, oh, my horse will, you know, he's soft if he's got a pain and that. And yeah, our thoroughbreds, you know, we always have the vets out to them. I know that feeling. But generally horses will hide pain. So don't think, oh, my horse is not in pain because he's not showing these signs. They're not like dogs. They will hide pain. So it's up to us to be a bit of a detective. So eliminating all that, eliminating any pain-related issues, and going through the rehabilitation aspect of retraining your thoroughbred, which I call phase one. I have a system that I follow, and now they're ready to go into re-education. So your top line, you're not going to be able to work on your top line if your horse isn't moving correctly, if they're not in self-carriage and they have not responded they haven't been trained to respond to your light aids. So this is where you're retraining, and I won't go too much into detail here other than to say that you aren't going to be able to get your horse to work properly without retraining the basic responses in hand and then under saddle. So you want your horse to be stopping nice and lightly with the reins, having their stop and go responses, with what we call in equitation science training, foundation training, like you're training a new horse that hasn't been educated under saddle. Except with thoroughbred racehorses, it's harder because we're having to retrain them. They've learnt to lean on the bit. They've learnt to, they don't give to pressure. They habituate to a lot of pressure. So they lean into the bit in racing and in gallop. So we have to completely retrain them to give to pressure and to first of all just stand in self-carriage. Part of working over the top line, building a nice top line, is having your horse work in balance, in self-carriage. Now they don't understand self-carriage if they've come out of racing and they've been a typical racehorse, working quite often on the forehand. So we have to go back. Your first step in developing a good top line is ask, have I retrained my horse in hand with the basic responses? Does he stop and go lightly in hand? I've got some YouTube videos on this. I've got a course coming up as well. If you wanted to learn more about retraining the basic responses, let me know in the comments below. But you want to make sure that you've got your horse stopping and going to light responses just in their natural frame, okay, not forcing any outline. So this is what I've done with Ty. So going through your retraining first, before you look at building any top line. Don't think about your top line if you haven't done your basic foundation retraining of the 10 basic responses of stop and go and faster and slower, yielding the hindquarters, turning the shoulders. If your horse hasn't been taught how to turn properly and how to give to the bit and flex in their pole, there's no way that you're going to be able to get your horse working correctly in a top line. I go through all of this with my retraining of Ty that's coming up in the academy if you wanted to follow that. I've just been looking at it last night and thinking, wow, I've got so many videos. But retraining your off the track thoroughbred first to light responses without even worrying about their top line. Now that we've got that, you can start to put everything together and look at, okay, I want to work on my horse's top line. So have I retrained them? Are they light to the aids? Because you're not going to be able to work on the top line if you can't have your horse in self-carriage and light to the aids. Then looking at the top line. So how do you build top line? I need another sip of coffee to go through this. There's so much in my head that I can talk about. And this was interesting. I was working with Ty the other day. So a horse builds top line. So the top line is all the muscles. They go from, don't pick my brain on the name of the muscles. You've got your latissimus dorsi and that, and it would be really good for me to have an article. I'll do a slide presentation on this at some stage and we can go through all of this. But imagine the top line is all the muscles that sort of like a bit like a suspension bridge, okay, from their poll, okay, all the way down their back to their tail. These big muscles are like a suspension bridge. Okay, now in racing, you can imagine that you know, they're compensating if they're sort of maybe carrying weight on one foreleg more than the other. If like Ty, he had issues with his off front foreleg, so they'll get tighter, so their top line is not lengthened and stretched. Or even in dressage horses or any horse that's working not correctly. So to develop a good top line, you want to imagine this beautiful big muscle going from their poll all the way to their tail. And you want that to be nice and strong and flexible and supple and lengthened. Okay, now imagine if your horse hasn't got a good top line, this muscle is weak, it's sunken, it's contracted, and it's stiff and it's tight. So firstly, if we've got a weak, contracted, stiff and tight top line muscles, okay, you're not going to achieve a top line. I'm going to say this first of all, by forcing the horse in a posture with draw reins, side reins, any type of fixed head carriage, even firm holding, you know, a horse, I wrote a link down here. So a horse's muscle structure is affected by rein contact. Okay, so you actually, to start to work to top line, you want to actually work your horse in a natural outline with really no rein contact. Just working on your basic foundations. Once they're light to the responses, then you can start to mold the top line. So your top line comes from, so first be aware that you've probably got very atrophied, tight muscles. So you need to develop top line, you need to be gentle with your horse, okay? So the carrot stretches and backing up and that, look, it's not going to do a lot to develop top line. It can help at sort of activating core muscles and that, but the way to develop top line is to engage the hindquarters, to have your horse active behind, okay, so really stepping underneath them. With a nice active walk. I always start off in walk first, and then you want the energy from those hind legs, okay, then comes up over there. So nice active soft loin muscles up over their rump and over their loin muscles, under the saddle, up into the wither. You want to make sure that the horse is nice and soft, okay, in their shoulders. So this is where making sure that your horse is turning correctly, because if you're working nice and actively with their hind legs, it's pushing all the energy up over their back, and you want that to go up into a nice contact, okay? But if you've got blockages in front, if you've got blockages in your shoulders, if the horse isn't turning properly and instead leaning on their shoulder, that energy through the top line, that's sort of strengthening, lengthening that muscle is going to be blocked. Okay, so active hind legs are really important. Now, you're not going to be able to get active hind legs unless you've retrained your horse to be nice and light to the go forward responses. But your top line develops from activity on their hind legs, pushes up over their hind leg, up into the loin muscles, over the back, okay, into nice free shoulders. Now, when you're retraining, it's like you have to continually adjust the horse. And then into a free, okay, not a constricted head, okay, but a free head carriage, okay, then where the activity going forward from the hind leg can then start to channel the energy up through the withers, over into the head and into the bridle. Now, this is going to take quite a long time. You know, this is all to do with retraining. Top line blends in with correctly retraining your off the track thoroughbred with the aids and their responses. Building a top line is not going to happen, you know, really fast, and you cannot force a top line by fixing the head carriage. The head carriage is a symptom of the rest of it. Nice active forward hind legs, okay, coming over the back into making sure. So I'll go back for an example with Ty. He was working really nicely, and then I felt like we'll keep getting stuck in some areas. So I just thought he doesn't feel right. He's very resistant in front. He did not want to lengthen and reach down, and I could feel a difference in him. I felt like a blockage. we had him looked at by the osteopath, and he had a rotated pelvis. Okay, he's not going to be able to work correctly if he's rotated in his pelvis, so we've fixed that. We've done a rehabilitation program going over ground poles, and he feels fantastic again. So starting to feel, can your horse step under actively? I could feel that he wasn't able to step under correctly with his near hind leg. I could feel it. He wasn't able to. So now I can feel that he's nice and active. Okay, so I've got the activity. I can feel that there's no blockages over his back. Okay, I'm not fixing on his head. What I do is ask him to bend and flex correctly. Now, if a horse is bending and flexing correctly, they can't bend, okay, in their body and flex with their head up in the air. Okay, they have to stretch down in the bridle to bend and flex correctly. So to get them working up into a nice soft contact is a symptom of bending and flexing correctly through their body. So it's like you train every single separate aid to your horse. You train them to go forward. Okay, you train them to slow down. You train them to speed up in their gaits. You train them to flex and give to the bit. Okay, in hand, at a standstill, under saddle, at a standstill, and then you train them to turn. So when you ask for the left turn with the rein aid and they give in their jaw, then they step out with their left front hind end. So we train every single movement that we want the horse to ever do singularly as a clear, separate aid response. We train every single part to yield the hindquarters. We train that separately first, and then the movement. So high level dressage and your Grand Prix dressage, every single movement, your half pass, your pirouette, they're all combined. That a pirouette is or a half pass is made up of your half pass. For instance, you've got your forward aids because you're going forward. It's made up of yielding, so your horse is yielding to your leg aid. It's made up of bend and flexion, so you're asking for that curvature in the horse's spine. So you can see we've got the turn aid in there, we've got the go forward aid, we've got the yield aid to the leg. So we teach that all separately first, and then we put it all together, okay, to then blend. We don't use aids together, but we blend it so that we can then manipulate the horse's body, and they understand what we're asking, manipulate the horse's body into a healthy posture, and then that's where working with your top line comes into it. So you really basically, the top line is a symptom of the horse working correctly, okay, in a healthy posture, in a natural outline, not in a forced outline, okay, in a natural outline. Now, this is where it gets a bit confusing, and this is really good where you'll see this with my process of retraining Ty. I never forced his outline in any way. He started to soften. And this is where it gets a little bit more difficult with off the track thoroughbreds, because you've got this horse that's really braced, and quite often you'll see this stiff sort of tight muscles, this braced big underneck, okay, up like that. Now, a lot of what people will do is imagine this braced underneck, this contracted, atrophied top line. They try and force it into an outline. Now, it's actually been proven. I've worked in the fitness industry as an instructor. I know this. Even with your stretches, your carrot stretches, when you stretch a muscle, okay, when you stretch a muscle forcefully, it resists, okay? So it actually goes back and tightens even more. So if you're doing your carrot stretches and the horse is stretching around to get that carrot, you're sort of forcing the stretch. So it's not doing a lot. I don't do carrot stretches. Look, I'm not a equine physiotherapist, and I know that they can help, but I really haven't had a lot of success with carrot stretches. I just find the most success I've ever had, and Ty is such a good example because he was so atrophied in his top line is following the retraining of your basic responses with equitation science principles and teaching the horse to move their body correctly. So you can do your carrot stretches and your backing up. Backing up, I find actually, now backing up, I know it's supposed to activate the core, but also backing up is hard for them. You want to make sure you're not backing up if they've got a sore lumbar area, or they have, because off the track thoroughbreds have a lot of strain and a lot of demands put on their sacroiliac joint and the sacroiliac area. So if you're backing up an off the track thoroughbred and you haven't sort of, retrain them to light responses and allow them to move freely, you're going to associate backing up with them to be negative, okay, because they're going to feel some discomfort. Just look at their sacroiliac area is quite often inflamed. So backing up is a big thing. I don't actually back up very well. Backing up is just part of your stop response, okay, and I'll do 1 or 2 steps just to teach them to stop lightly and be in self carriage. So top line, and you want to, I'm going to put, there's so much, it's such a deep topic and there's so much to it, but just think of, I always look at, because once again, we're addressing it from an off the track thoroughbred who's not, a pony that you've taken on, or maybe a warm blood or a show jumper, unless you've had a really well, a retrained off the track thoroughbred that's been out working in dressage. You're still going to have issues there, but coming out of racing, you can imagine you're sort of working with stone chisel. It's like you have to sort of chisel away with this rock hard muscle. So forcing a top line is just going to force the muscles to go into this false stretch. Okay, they're not giving. It's just going to cause discomfort. It's not creating any length in the horse at all. It's not softening or allowing the horse's muscles to give. I really like the yoga approach to it. So for example, in fitness, when you do just say old style fitness, we don't do, well, they didn't even when I was in fitness, we would hold the stretch just to where you felt like there was a little bit of resistance, and then allow your muscle to give, and then you could go further. It's the same with yoga. A yoga teacher will not force you into a posture. You just go, you sit in that posture or stand in that posture to where your body is comfortable, where you may feel a little bit of resistance, and you allow the body to soften into it. A bit like when you're massaging, you'll find a knot. Okay, so you can't force in massaging. You can't force a knot to disappear. You can just do the pressure points. You can hold a little bit of resistance and put a bit of pressure on it with your finger and allow the muscle to melt. It's a bit like seeing your horse's body. I like to use visual, and this is how I sort of see the horses as I'm working. It's sort of like you allowing the horse's body to release and give and let go. That happens naturally in the retraining of the basic responses. So you imagine your off the track thoroughbred is tense, tight, short in their back, so the high head carriage, the shortened muscles, and forcing them, putting side reins or draw reins on them is just forcing a posture, and the muscle is only going to resist that, and it's going to be unpleasant for the horse, and it's not going to make them feel good in their body. Instead, go, okay, I've got this piece of art that I'm working with, and I need to remold it. And first of all, gentle. Okay, look at retraining your horse and look at addressing the top line as working your horse gently. Okay, basic foundation retraining, and then getting more activity from the hind legs, and then they can start to be nice and light to the responses, working up over the back, and then you can start to ask them to turn correctly, and putting all these in together teaches your horse to work in a healthy posture. Working in a healthy posture means that they're working and they're activating that top line muscle. Okay, healthy, it's lengthening, it's giving, it's like a suspension bridge, and that's how it strengthens. So once again, the top line muscle attaches from their poll all the way to their tail. Okay, if you have got fixed rein, forceful rein contact, or side reins, okay, the horse can't lengthen and stretch into it. Yeah, people say, oh, they're lengthening down in side reins. They're not. It has a different it works in a different way. It cannot give they don't give, side reins don't give, even if they're elastic, the elastic comes back. They haven't got that giveness to it, so they can't stretch out. This is why riding is really about feel. It's so much, and it takes years and years to learn feel. Feel when the horse gives and allow them to stretch, and this is all a learning process. Retraining an off the track thoroughbred is learning for us as well as learning for the horse. They're learning to use their body in a different way. We're learning to teach our horse to use their body, learning what it feels like. So it is a challenge. It's definitely not easy with off the track thoroughbreds. If you're one of the wonderful people that have taken on an off the track thoroughbred, it's hard work. It's much easier that has a horse that's already soft to teach them to work over the top line. It's not easy to teach a horse that's had quite often years of working on the forehand, and it's got all these locked, tense muscles, and not only that, they're mentally like, wah, you're dealing with the mental stress that they've endured from racing. So it's, once again, I love to have the holistic approach to it, and it's a journey. It really is. Retraining an off the track thoroughbred is a journey for the patient people, a journey that you want to, it's not the end result, but the journey that is part of it, and enjoying those little wins. And I know way back when I first started, I just wanted to get on and ride, and as you do, get out there and compete in events, and I still do, especially just retraining recently from track work. I just want to get out there and have fun, but I know that laying such a really good, solid rehabilitation program and retraining foundation is so rewarding to then get to that, at your first dressage comp or that, and to think, wow, look how far I've come. And yeah, it's taken a year and a half, 2 years, but it's so rewarding to look at where you started to where you are now. And there is no quick fixes. The horses will put up with being inside reins. They'll put up with all of that. And you may think they look like they're working around okay, but they're not. They never are. And they don't tell us. They can't tell us. They don't speak in words. They hide pain. And you have to learn that, which is another topic in itself, stress in horses. What are the signs of stress in horses? So, and you want the natural head carriage. You want, and then they start to come up over the back as their muscles, as their top line activates. It sort of brings their muscles sort of like a bit of a, flexible, supple thing, and they naturally come down and around as they're flexing and turning their spine. Okay, that's when they start to come down and onto the bit. That's just a symptom. You cannot force that. Forcing it is fake. It's artificial. It's not a response from the horse working their body correctly. So I might leave it there with that topic, just because it goes really deep. We know top line. There's 100 articles out there. How do I build my horse's top line? And I can only teach you from my perspective and what I believe in and what works for me and what hasn't worked for me. And I can tell you what hasn't worked for me is forcing a horse into something. And I've been there. Don't worry. I'm way back. I remember my first 2 horses before I even worked in racing over 20 years ago, having your typical dressage lessons, forcing them into an outline. And it's just, it does not work. And it's like you're working against your horse. You don't want to be working against your horse. You want to be working with your horse. You want to be their therapist, their body therapist. Like when you go to a physiotherapist, they're not going to force you into a position. They might give, if you've got recovering from injuries, which I have, some of them might hurt. We really don't want to do anything that's going to hurt our horse or give them pain. Once they're really good and healthy and starting to work like Ty. So I'm very aware that when he's doing even the walk work that I did with him the other day, I'm asking him to be very active in his walk. I always feel like, now this is a top line thing, I feel like I count the hind legs, I feel the hind legs step underneath them. I want to feel their hind legs step underneath them, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's my first thing that I focus on. I make sure that he's nice and soft that he's soft in front, okay, so that the energy then can go from the hind legs up over the back. So that's when I do my zigzags. I go on to this in my training, what I call zigzags, which is your turn, your leg yielding in that, to keep them soft and to have him turn so he's not falling in on his shoulder. But where was I going with that? I've lost my train of thought, guys. Keeping the horse soft in their body. I can't remember. So much. As I said, it's a very deep topic. Top line. But, oh, yes, that's right. Gentle. Okay, so you don't want your horse to be in pain. Well, you don't. But once we get to a level, and the same with a racehorse, a really well-trained racehorses, and I've ridden them, and it's the most amazing feeling. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Horses that, I've ridden for trainers where I've just ridden the one horse and I've worked them all the way through. And I remember this mare, she was a staying mare, and I had her so good in her body, feeling so fit. She was out there, and we used to do 2 laps. She was, as I said, a stayer mare, so she was going over 2,000 plus. And I felt like I was on Winx. She felt so good. It was just like being on this... because we really conditioned her. We gradually built her up. We got her fitness up there. I had her relaxing, trotting out to the track. She was stretching. She was working over her back. I had her in self-carriage. She was never leaning on the bit. Yeah, in her gallops, she had to lean up onto the bit. But in all her slow work and everything, she was in self-carriage. And she would go around there, and her work was beautiful. I could feel she felt amazing. She had to work, like it was strenuous, and same with Ty, but he's a level where he's working like we're in a gym class or something. We're working, but we have the fitness and the stamina to be able to do it without it being unpleasant, when you push yourself past where your muscles are burning. And racehorses have that all the time. If they're not fit enough to race, or a dressage horse is not conditioned to be at the level they are, it's really painful for them. If they're conditioned to be at the level that you're asking for them, so with Ty, I just working him up where I can feel he's happy in that, but this is only in walk, because it's hard to be active in walk. I mean, I trot and everything, but I stop it there. It might only be 15 minutes, okay, of that session, because I want him to not be stressed. I don't want his muscles to be really sore or anything like that. The same with this mare that I rode in racing. Like, we conditioned her so gradually that she was just like a machine. And she was only little too. She was so cute. Penny, her name was. And her first race, she didn't perform. She wasn't doing anything very good for a couple of years. Like, she had a couple of handy runs as a 2-year-old, and then she did nothing. And for instance, the other track words were riding her, and she wouldn't trot out. Okay, she would just, she wouldn't trot. A lot of racehorses will do this. They don't want to trot. They just go into canter. So the track work riders rushing in to rushing out, because you get paid per ride. We'll just rush her out, canter out. Whereas me being so into biomechanics and loving them, wanting to work properly, I love that feeling of getting them to work well over their back, and work well in their body. I had a relaxing trotting out, and, I used to walk halfway out and warm her up and then trot out and go around 2 laps with gallop. So we do 2 laps of the gallop track, start off with a trot around, then pick up canter, I'd get over her neck, and then come up to 3/4, and we do all the way around 3/4, and then, a working gallop up the straight. Like, that's amazing. It was just so amazing. She felt like a machine. She felt so good. And in her first start, she came back. She didn't do anything for a couple of years. Her first start back, she won like she was Winx. She won her first start. Her ears pricked going over that line like she was Winx. She just thought she pulled up beautiful after a race. She wasn't blowing excessively. She cooled down, and she recovered from that race start perfect. I mean, how many times I've strapped horses at races where they've finish their race start. And this is complete, I've gone on a tangent here, guys, but just saying, you don't want to work your horse past their limit. It's gentle, it's progressive. You be a really good, not only are you their mum, dad, you're their rehabilitation therapist, you're their trainer, but you know how many times, I couldn't count on two hands, you know, hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of times I've strapped horses that have finished, you know, at the races, and they've come out and their eyes are bulging out of their heads because it was such a hard run for them. Like, they look distressed, okay, bleeding, okay, they've pushed themselves so hard that they're bleeding out of their lungs. I've, you know, I've ridden horses that have bled, you know, because we have to do what the trainer says way back. Anyway, that's another story of racing. Unless you have a trainer that lets you, you know, listens to you, which I've been very lucky to have trainers like that as well. Some good people in racing. But yeah, and you have to also think too, what's my off the track thoroughbred, what are their history? Presume they've had a pretty tough history, because racing, you know, I would look at, they've experienced pain in racing. I've strapped more horses that have come out of racing looking distressed than I have the horses that have been ready and conditioned for their race. And imagine how painful that is. Their muscles are burning, their lungs are burning. Not only that, they're probably carrying injuries. And yeah, so just think, you've got your horse, your off the track thoroughbred also has negative associations with working, and they're holding that, their muscles are tense and tight from protecting themselves, trying to protect pain or whatever. So we're physiological beings as well. Horses are physiological and mental and emotional, and they always say, I think in therapy, don't they, hold, you know, you hold your emotions and your stress in your body. Horses are no different. So anyway, I'll leave it there because I went on a little bit of a tangent with that one, off track. But I hope that it helps the whole top line, because we can look at top line as a completely, you know, the whole biomechanics of it, and that's really good. But I just wanted to talk about developing a top line in an off the track thoroughbred, because there's so much more that needs to come first before you start to address building the top line. And so that's what I wanted to get across in this Q&A. So I hope that has helped. If you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments. And also too, I've got in the Off the Track Thoroughbred Success Academy, I have a online training series. So it's a monthly membership you can join, and I'm actually going through, I've filmed the whole retraining process of Ty, who the horse I've spoken about, all the way up from when he first came to me to where he is now, which is a massive transformation. It really is. So it's going to be quite a lengthy training series. So I've put all the modules up, and our first training series will start this week. And it'll be, I'll probably upload 2 trainings a week. We'll sort of go with the flow. It's in the founding, it's our Off the Track Thoroughbred it's sort of like our founding membership launch. So it's $39 US a month, which works out to be 50 Australian, I think. And unless you're already a member and you've bought the Kickstart roadmap, or you've already got a membership, but it's currently $39 US a month, and you get so much with that. So you get the Kickstart roadmap course, which is really important to have. It's a prerequisite for retraining, you know, re-educating your off the track thoroughbred. So that's in the academy. You get the new training series coming up. You get a weekly Zoom coaching session with me. We've got one tomorrow, just a welcome one. That's our first Zoom session. I've also got an area in the group where you can ask me any questions. There's a little area where you can just post your question. You can share a video. I also have a video assessment area. So this is all free in the academy. Once you're a member, you can upload a piece of the video, any video that you have of your horse. Okay, if you go, oh, I don't know how my horse is working, or I would like some feedback on this. upload it. There's a area in the academy, in the group, where you can upload your video, and I will go in and I will assess it for you and give you feedback. And that's all part of it. And so much more. I've already got all our Q&As listed there, so all past trainings and Q&As are in there. So once you're in the academy, you don't have to go anywhere else when it comes to my education, what you get offered with me, because I've got all our Q&As from the Facebook group in there, all the YouTube videos, everything. So you've just got everything. The Kickstart roadmap is in there as well. So everything is in one place. So yeah, let me know if you're keen on wanting to join that, yeah, let me know in the comments and I can give you a link to that. It will go up in price once I get more content in there, just because I'm offering so much and I want it to be really, really full of value and really supportive for you guys. I want you to be able to upload a video and I can assess it for you. So I want to give you a lot of value, and I would rather have students, members in the academy that are proactive and really on their retraining journey, and happy to pay. I mean, $50 a month is not even one lesson, is it? Yeah, so I'd rather have a smaller group of people that are proactive and wanting to get involved. And so that's, and also too, I have to fund all the retraining that I'm going to do. I'm going to be filming all the retraining of all my horses. It's expensive. It's really, really expensive now that I've given up track work too. I'm just doing my business full time. So just another tip: if you join the academy, you're really supporting me and what I'm offering with the support for Off The Track Thoroughbreds. You're supporting my beautiful horses. A lot of them have been, you know, I've got 3 that have been rescued from slaughter, 5 actually, 3 from shepmates. So it supports me and my horses as well. It's been really difficult for me since I've left track work. Really, really difficult. And I'm putting everything into this business. So yeah, it would be a wonderful support for me and the horses as well, which I would so appreciate. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know in the comments any questions if you're interested in the academy, if you have any questions on Topline, and I will see you in the group, and I will see you in next week's Q&A, which is going to be on Monday because my lovely trimmer is coming out on Sunday. So yeah, I'll see you then. Have a great week. Bye.